I convene the August 17th, 2022 regular board meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. Chris, please call the roll.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Here.
Karen Larson.
Here.
Jenny Norton.
Here.
Liz Sullivan.
Here.
Emily Swistak.
Here.
Lorna Turner, absent. Sarah Wynn, absent.
Thank you. Agenda item 2 is opportunity for visitors to speak. Public comment is for the general public to address the board. Each person will have up to 5 minutes to provide public comment. Seeing as no one is here, no emails, no nothing, thank you. Item 3 acknowledges that Vice President Swistak and Trustee Wynn reviewed the July billings in August.
That's not true. It was actually Treasurer Norton reviewed them because when I went in today to do it, it was actually I signed the checks and she had reviewed the bills on Monday, so.
Okay.
Oh, Jackie did let me know that, okay.
So anyway, it wasn't me, it was Norton.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Trustee.
It was nice
Norton,
to be you for a
Trustee
day.
Wynn. In August, that was in August, Trustee Sullivan and Trustee Turner will review the August billings in September. Agenda item 4 is consent agenda. Is there a trustee who wishes to pull something from the consent agenda? And if not, may I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda? Any discussion?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Roll call?
Emily Swistak.
Aye.
Liz Sullivan.
Aye.
Karen Larson.
Aye.
Jenny Norton.
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye. Thank you. Agenda item 5 is unfinished business. 5A is the capital improvement project. Christina is here from CCS to update the board. Can you walk us through it?
Yes. So progress as of date, the north entry has been constructed. The frame, the steel frame is up. Elevator pit has been completed. And the cabling and wiring is being pulled. And there's drywall that's progressing throughout the building, the first phase rather. And mechanical, electrical, and plumbing are being roughed in. That's ongoing. So that's sort of the, we also had a meeting with, for the transition from phase 1 to phase 2, a moving meeting, which will be held, actually the move is scheduled for the end of September, beginning of October, for that move. The project schedule, it is on schedule as of this point. There might be some flex in the end. There's some long lead items that keep appearing, electrical and of the sort, but the phase 1 and phase 2 appear to be on schedule, so could be creative to pick up some time during that phase, the second phase to reduce the schedule from the completion date. Project cost summary, everything is tracking on budget. There's a healthy contingency still on, and we have some invoices that have been submitted. They are listed at the bottom of our packet, and there's a total of $354,000. And the change order update, we have one change order request that is showing that needs to be approved, which is paging speakers. There were some speakers that were not accounted for, which requires additional speakers to be put in, so that's showing as $856.96. Additional steel for the elevator shaft, that was approved also, those are in red. That was just to shift the elevator pit over slightly and add some steel for some support. Also, the bid alternates that are up for discussion, the one being the award for masonry cleaning for $9,000. This is required for consensus tonight from the board so that we could give notification to Camosi to proceed with that. It is a hot topic. Actually, it's critical in the timeline. If we want to do it now, this is the time to do it. There was a credit for not painting the building, about $13,000. So there's an offset. I do have some photos.
Not painting the stone, right?
Yeah, not painting the stone, I'm sorry.
When you mention an offset, what do you mean?
So the stone was going to be painted, and that was an alternate for $13,000. So instead of, it was chosen not to do the painting of the stone, so that was a credit back to the library. But if you would like to clean the stone, that's an add of $9,000. So we just have some photos of areas that were cleaned and tested. Not really sure that you would be able to really see the benefit of the cleaning of the stone because it's more the mortar. Also, the stone projects a little bit and it does throw shadows.
Which is which?
So they're both, there's a portion at the top, there's the stone at the top that's clean, and then there's a portion that's not clean. So that is kind of, they did a
I
strip.
would assume this is the clean,
I think that's just sun.
or is that just sun?
Yeah.
That's just sun,
Yes.
okay, I
Yes.
was gonna say, that's nice.
Yeah. Right.
All right,
It's really from here to here.
left,
To
is
right.
it clean?
Right in this block here.
Okay, you can
From
take,
here,
show the rest of
from
it.
here, from this portion, from here to here. They didn't clean the joints, so they were just doing from this point to this point down.
So we're here to here.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
And so you're saying the difference that we would notice would really be in the mortar than
Yeah.
anything else?
Yeah, and the limestone would come clean,
Uh-huh.
it's just that the in-between, as you can see, there's still some, dark areas. This is totally dark.
Mm-hmm.
So
And then what's that one?
this one is just showing in the sun here.
Oh, it's the same, it's the
Yes,
same area,
yes,
just right here.
Exactly.
The border on the top, those
Mhm.
marks,
Yeah.
will they go away?
Yes, I
Okay.
believe they didn't do the joints right now because I
Oh,
think
the
it
joints,
erodes,
okay.
a little bit of
Could
the
you show us
joint.
the rest of them?
Yeah. So,
If we wait and do the cleaning later, after we've already painted the cedar, does having that washed down on the cedar after painting negatively impact the cedar?
Yes, they'll
Yeah.
have to protect the cedar
Yeah.
when they do that in order to make sure that it doesn't damage the
Oh, no,
paint
that's
on the
okay.
cedar.
Okay, so does that potentially increase the cost of the clean?
Likely.
Because
So the
it's more
before is
later.
here and the
Yeah.
Right.
after is
Now,
correct.
And
And then
I don't know how many circumstances you have like that on the building. Where the cedar
Okay.
is directly adjacent to the stone or you have a lot of areas where it's a lot of stone altogether without any cedar near it. But to answer your
Gotcha.
question, yes, that additional protection would cost something.
Okay, and does it have any impact on the health of the mortar and the ability for the mortar to stay longer if you clean it?
It shouldn't.
So it doesn't matter in terms of the viability of the mortar, whether you clean it or you don't clean it?
Right. I can't speak exactly for the cleaning methods that they use, but typically when they do this type of masonry cleaning, the whole system is set up to not cause additional damage to it. Sometimes what you worry about is that it pumps water into the masonry that then eventually leaches out later on. But that shouldn't be an issue on this, given how long the building has been in place and the mortar looks good. It's not as if you have a lot of damaged mortar. That looks like it's in good shape.
So can you net out the pros versus the cons of doing this?
The
Cleaning, I mean.
aesthetics would be the most significant pro.
yeah.
And I think the other thing is, it's not unusual to have to clean masonry like this periodically in the life of a building. This would seem to be the time to do it,
Correct.
right?
Yes,
And
correct.
I don't know when's the last time this might have been cleaned, but
Not
maybe never, right? So this would be the time to do it. Looking at this photograph, I'm a little surprised that the cleaned stone doesn't look better than it does, frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure that the area that was selected was probably the best area to pick to do the cleaning test, so.
I think it's the darker, maybe dirty stone is on the north side of the building. I think the west side of the building actually gets a little bit more
Relief.
rain wash or whatever, but
And we're saying there was an offset of the painting of 13,000 that we allowed in
Yes,
the bid, correct?
yes,
So we have that sort of as a credit to
Correct.
my
Correct.
simple thinking.
yeah.
And then this would be the 9,000, so we're still,
It's in budget.
Mhm,
You
Yeah,
obviously-
yeah, right, you would be.
if that's a concern.
Right.
For me, money is a concern, and there are, I'm trying to figure out here bang for buck. Like, to me, in the picture, I'll be honest, I see absolutely no difference. And what you're telling me is cleaning the mortar, cleaning the stone really doesn't change the durability or the length that the stone is viable. Cleaning the mortar, you're saying, probably doesn't change the viability or the length the mortar is viable. I mean, I'm thinking homeowner here, why would I clean my brick, okay?
If you have any brick, you clean it.
Okay,
I'm just, my home isn't totally brick. I have that face brick like other people. And the north side, I totally agree.
my parents' home, 100 years old, never cleaned,
Okay.
100% brick.
It's-
Maybe we're the
it's-
slouches of the neighborhood,
it's
but I'm just saying.
I think the point more than that is, should we do it now when we're doing everything else? If we would need to do it down the road? Mildew? I mean, Emily?
So, I mean, I guess this is my question too, because again, that picture is not me. I can see it along the top part, but I can't see it in the actual stone, right? So it's
right.
very difficult to see that it really is doing anything. But I mean, if you're saying the north side really needs it, and if it's an aesthetic thing, I feel like if we're doing all this new stuff and trying to make it look nice, then we should clean it and have it be, have our best foot forward when we finish the renovation.
So along the coping here, for example, which is this top piece of stone
That's the
here.
only place I can see it, Don.
Right, and I suspect that the reason you have these dark spots in between, that's where the joint is. So they didn't want to spray the joint and take the chance of damaging the joint. This is the kind of thing, though, that when this project is done, it's going to look like kind of a new building, right? And so, these are if you leave stuff like this dirty, those are the things. Now, is the general public going to notice that and say, oh, they did everything except clean that stone? No, but I suspect after having this conversation here tonight, you will all notice it when you go out there and see it. So, again, it's one of these things that you're doing a project, the whole idea is to revitalize the building, make it look like it's new. Right? And these are the little tells that if you leave it in place the way that it is right now, kind of reveal that, you stopped short a little bit. So I'm not recommending it one way or the other.
So, well, here's a question for you, because you were talking about not going along the joints right now when they did the sample, so
Yeah.
because of risk of damaging it. So then if it does get damaged, if we award it and then they clean it and then that does get damaged, is that part of it? Like, is there recourse that they would repair
So-
that? Like,
So in this number, there is an allowance for tuck pointing,
okay,
which is to repair the joints that might be given up due to
Yeah.
either spray or age.
So this is sealant, this is not mortar
okay,
in these joints up here.
okay,
And my guess is that the reason they did it the way they did it in the sample, it was just faster and easier to do it.
Okay.
That they would have to protect those sealant joints when they do the actual work.
okay.
And that if they damaged a sealant joint, if they compromise a sealant joint, it would seem that it's their responsibility to repair it, to make
okay.
sure that it's okay.
Right.
It's probably worth,
Right.
it's probably worth confirming that.
Right.
But that's what I would expect, it's like hiring somebody to come out and do something on your house and
Right.
they destroy something else, they're responsible for it, so.
Beth, I think.
My recollection is that they actually tried 3 products, and I think that's what you're seeing, is 3 vertical sections.
Okay.
And they wanted to see if there was any difference, and the end result is they kind of thought that the cleaning was about the same, whatever product they used on it. But they used 3 products that they're accustomed to using to clean stone.
If you look at it, yeah, if you look at it, now that I'm looking at it more closely, if I look at the areas right below the stone part that is obviously cleaned, even on the stone below it, it looks a little cleaner than the stone just below these gaps. I suspect they just sprayed this, kind of from top to bottom to try to get it to.
Yeah. I wasn't there,
So
but yeah.
it's hard to judge from that photograph.
Can you talk about why it says award critical at this time? Because I want to know why it needs to be done now. And I heard what Don had to say about after paint, you
Right.
have to protect it. But doing it right now and awarding it right now, why?
I think Camosi wants to, this is on the north side, I think it's mainly protection and possibly getting in with the first phase. I'm not really sure. As you approach winter, are we getting into
You
like,
could ask them,
yeah.
why
but-
does it need to be done now? What kind of premium would we pay if we put this decision off for, X number of months or something like
We can
that?
ask them,
But I assume that it has something to do with their schedule of activities, and this is the most efficient way for them to get in and do it right
I
now.
think I remember Mark saying something.
I
about
think,
that.
is it because they're doing the masonry on the other side and they want the mason contractor
I think
there
you're
and
right.
instead of
Now I'm remembering things.
setting up
Yeah.
again, right? Setting up and mobilization, all that
Right.
stuff, and it's twice the thing. And
So
So,
they would do the cleaning, and then after the cleaning, they would do the painting?
Yes.
So they're gonna do it before, like,
damaging any,
yeah, before it gets really cold and
Right.
nasty out?
yeah,
Right.
right.
And the tuck pointing is also, it's not just any damage that would happen as a result of the cleaning, but it's any tuck pointing that needed to be done,
Yeah,
Right.
correct?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Jenny, you have any comments, thoughts?
Sure, I do.
Okay.
I come from the frugal end of the spectrum. So I was looking for, like Liz was inquiring about merits other than just aesthetics. And I, like Director Weinstein, feel that, it would be nice if we didn't have to kind of make this decision at this stage when there's still a lot of time left in the project timeline for costs to shake out favorable or unfavorable for us to know if this is really worth that spend versus other things that we would wish to do when we get further down the line, costs racked up at that point, whether there's really room for that or not. So I understand the benefits of not having to cover things, but I also don't know how much incremental cost that would really end up being, and if it's not that much more, then I think there's value in holding off, certainly. And I also think that the stone, if it were cleaned, how long would that last? We talked about the homeowner example. I have retaining wall blocks that I power wash, and one Illinois winter completely wipes out that benefit. But the cost of me power washing is just the cost of water for me. So that's a little different than it is in this case. So I can do that over and over. I don't know that we would want to do this over and over with a lot of frequency. So I don't know if you have an answer to how many Illinois winters this covers.
I would say this type of maintenance on a masonry building, it might be every 10, 15, 20 years. It's not something you should have to do on an annual basis. It's probably bad to do it on an annual basis because then you start to run more risk of pumping water into the wall that then has to somehow find a way to get out of the wall again. So, this should be, I would think of it more like replacing your roof, for example, that kind of timeline.
For the frequency, not for the necessity, though.
Right.
It's a little bit more important to not have a leaking roof, I think, than pretty mortar and pretty stone.
I don't know if they put a sealer on it. Is it typical for, I don't know if it's included in here, but,
I don't know what
Yeah.
they
I think
price
there's more
for.
questions.
yeah.
How old is this building?
well, it's in pieces, so 1985 was the addition, right, Beth?
Right.
What was the original?
70, thereabouts, 70-something.
I thought it was 72, but I don't know why.
Sounds
I
right.
don't remember. I will send you all.
Well, the reason I'm asking is this has never been done, and the building was built in 1970. So I know you're saying it should be done every 10 or 20 or 30 years. And it's kind of like somebody tells me I should have my furnace cleaned every so many years, or my oil changed every 3,000 miles. There are people who will recommend X, and, you know, I have my original furnace, which nobody in the neighborhood has, and I don't have it cleaned every year or even every 10 or 20 years. I don't have my oil changed every 3,000, even though the book says to. I have it done like every 8,000, because that's sufficient. So I guess what I'm saying is, I'm not hearing a compelling reason.
This is about aesthetics. It's nothing
Just
more than
aesthetics.
that.
There's
So
also
the answer
nothing,
is
So-
1980 and 1987.
there's also nothing stopping the board from including it in the budget in a future year. There's nothing that says this has to be done in conjunction with the renovation, which comes with its own markups for the timing.
And I wonder if there's an opportunity to, because it's a renovation, and I think it's nice to have a nice, you know, presentation when you ribbon cut, but is there an opportunity to spot clean the front, the north, south? I don't know.
It's going to get hard, I think, to decide where to stop. I suspect even though the cleaning that we see here may not be as dramatic as we would like, I have a feeling if you clean part of it and it stops at some point, you're going to be able to notice the difference between the two.
Well, I think it is more about aesthetics, so arguing maintenance, I'm not arguing, but discussing maintenance versus, so we'll get more information, or we'll ask why now to get that clarified.
I mean, could it be something that we could take another poll? Hopefully Sarah and Lorna will be here in September at that meeting.
Well, I don't know that
Do we
that's
need-
vital,
I know.
it would be nice, but I think, we're not deciding this evening, is that
Okay.
correct?
That's up to the
Are
board.
we comfortable with that?
It doesn't seem like we're at any
It
type of
doesn't,
consensus where we would be able to move
But-
forward with this right now, so.
Would another month put a monkey wrench into
I
the,
will inquire.
It may
We will
cost
inquire.
something.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
they
It
might-
may cost something.
From
it
what
may
they're,
cost something.
Well, if the contractor is saying this is on their critical path to do it now, it may cost something. But I don't think any of us here tonight know
What
that
that is.
that's certain or what the value of that might be. But that seems to be why they're
Yeah.
asking for approval of it tonight. That's,
I feel like I would like more information, and one thing I would like is, I'd like to see a test done on the side that's gonna be impacted the most. Like, I'd like to see the cleaning test redone and see it where it's gonna impact. I mean, if it is an aesthetic thing, I'd like to see it done on the north side. And I'd also like Tatiana's idea explored a little bit more, because we do have differences in light, and where that hits is at the corners of the building.
Mhm.
So as much as it's probably not advised, I'd like to see if it's possible to just clean the north side.
yeah,
Even though it's, I mean, I know we all want perfection. I mean, we all want to live in the prettiest house and all that stuff. But, you know, maybe we could just clean the north side.
I mean, north side doesn't get the sun, where the sun helps to, dry out quicker when it rains. Some of these overhangs of these stones, maybe there's mildew that, sits there, so perhaps the north side, maybe, as they're working on the north side, perhaps they do the north side and look at the south side at a different time.
I mean, is, Tatiana, is that what you're thinking is the most critical area?
I think so, and in my mind, I'm thinking maybe a deeper dive into walking around the building and seeing where we have the most mildew or algae growth or something like that, and then
Right.
and sharing that. I can share that with the board, and Beth and I can walk around the building, take some more photos, and you are all welcome to walk around the building, except for the construction area, and see what you can see, and then we'll talk to Camosi
Mhm.
for some more
Yeah,
information
tomorrow we have a
about
meeting with
the
them.
timeframe for this.
I think just to be clear, this is dirt. This is not mildew or mold.
Not mold,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's.
but like algae growth or greenery.
It shouldn't,
you
it
don't
shouldn't
see
be,
that?
it's not organic. It should just be dirt. Typically, this happens, and you can kind of see it, it's more at the top of the wall. The coping has a flat surface, and dirt collects on the flat surface. And then when it rains, it washes over the side. And over many years, it starts to show up as staining on it. But it should be nothing more than dirt that's on
We'll
there.
take a
Yeah.
deeper look,
Good.
see what's going on.
Everyone agreeable? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Very good. And at this time, we have the exterior signage, the main sign being redesigned by our architects. And if you'd like to present?
Sure.
Don?
We have some
Yep.
show and tell.
Was this distributed before the meeting?
No.
Okay,
No.
okay.
You can give me half, I can walk on this side if you prefer.
So 2 pages each.
Two each.
Yep. Printing on both the front and the back.
Thank you.
I have only one.
Oh, sorry. There's 2 there. Does everyone have 2 pages that look different? Okay. So there are 3 concepts that are illustrated here. The third concept has a slight variation to it. That's why they're labeled 3A and 3B. Generally, they are organized from least expensive to most expensive. We don't know exactly what that means as far as the value of option 1 versus option 3 at this time, but there's probably a substantial difference in cost between option 1 and option 3. As we were working through this, I think that the kind of critical design challenge here was to do something that was legible and at the same time respected your brand, which is really the logo that you have and the lettering that you have. And when we started by just using the lettering exactly the way you have it right now on the sign, it's very thin, it's very elegant, but it's a little hard to read on a sign where you're trying to see it as you're driving by in a car. And so in the designs that you see here, we used the same font that you have, but it's a little weightier. We made it just a little bit thicker just to make it more readable than what you have right now. But I think it's still easily identifiable as your font, as part of your brand. So beginning with concept 1. Concept 1 is an idea where the 2 stone posts that you have out there supporting your current sign would remain in place, and we would simply replace the sign between those posts. To give you a sense of the size here, we kind of ghosted in some people to the, next to it so you can get a sense kind of the size of it. The panel itself in concept 1 is about 4 feet by 8 feet, about the size of a sheet of plywood. One of the things that we used as far as figuring out proportions for the sign was a square proportion, because your logo has such a strong square proportion to it. So this sign is, a double square. The main sign is a double square. The directional sign is a single square. The directional sign in this one, the logo is kind of ghosted out as kind of like a watermark on a piece of paper as a background, so that we can still get the lettering on top to read in a legible way. So in this case, we're showing kind of yellow lettering on a green background. We expect that coming out of this meeting, there'll be other options considered, maybe with respect to colors and things like that. The one thing that I think is important, though, is to make sure you have a good enough contrast between the letters and the background that it makes it readable. So I think these aren't the only two colors that you could use necessarily, but I think you have to find two colors that work well together and have enough contrast to make it readable. So that's concept one. If we flip the page over, you have concept two. Concept two abandons the existing signage that you have out there right now entirely. In this case, we have a main sign and a directional sign, both of which are about 5 feet square. So a little bit larger than the directional sign on concept one. And that's so that we could get the logo in the main sign up to a size that's big enough that it's readable. We can put the lettering that you have in the sign right now, Lisle Library District, get that embedded in the logo the way that you're used to seeing it, but get it up to a size that it's going to be readable for somebody who's driving by in a car. And then the directional sign takes on a very similar character. In this case, we're showing a different option where the logo is kind of an independent graphic that's on the directional sign with the directions underneath it. It's probably also worth mentioning, you can certainly take, if you like the directional sign in one concept paired with a main sign in another concept, you could probably flip some of these things around as well, if that makes sense. So in concept two, the main sign is installed on top of a new stone masonry base. We're showing kind of rustic stone similar to what you have on the building right now. There's a cut stone sill that sits on top of that the sign then gets mounted on top of. But this would require the addition of, you have to get a mason involved, somebody has to pour a concrete footing. It's a little more involved to do this than to do the first option. And then if we look at concept three, this is taking that a step further. So now it's a bigger sign. It'll certainly have much more of a presence on the street corner out there than what you have right now. In this case, the main sign is about 2.5 feet by 10 feet long. One end of the main sign sits on a stone kind of pillar piece that would have a foundation underneath it, and then the other side is connected to a large square stone surface. This would not be the type of rustic stone that you have on the building. This would be cut stone. So you have a nice smooth surface so it's easy to read the logo against it. And then the logo is applied to the surface of the stone. There's a couple of different ways to do the logo. It could be a standalone piece that gets mounted to the face of the stone. It could also be something where we actually incise the stone with the logo. So they make a template and they put it on the piece of stone, they sandblast it so you get kind of deeper grooves in the stone, and then you can paint those grooves. We've done that very effectively on other signs as well. And then the directional sign, again, kind of a simple square panel sign. So in this one, the main sign has a light background with dark lettering on it. If you flip it over on the other side, the only difference between these two, there's two differences. One is that on the main sign, we flip the colors, so the foreground color, the lettering is the lighter color, and the background color is the darker color. The other difference on this one is that we added Lisle Library District into the logo as well. So you have Lisle Library District on the sign itself, but then also inserted into the logo as well. Any questions?
Yes. The directional sign is the one that's on Kingston, right? So I thought that we talked about that should also say south entrance or something about it being an entrance there because
that's fine. So I think
coming off of Kingston and there is an entrance there.
Yep.
And so I thought that's what we had discussed.
So these signs are showing a kind of way you go about designing the sign. You may
Okay.
have more than one of these signs on the library site. You have a drive-up service window now. You may want a sign for the drive-up service window. So, you know, this is a way of showing a design idea that could then be adapted to the different things that you're talking about.
Okay, because it was what we had, because right now there's currently just that sign, and actually on the, when you're coming north on Kingston, it's actually kind of peeling off. We saw,
Yes.
we did our tour the other day, but that sign would be the one that would have drive-up service and then also south entrance on the same sign, because
Right.
that's the sign you see coming from Kingston
Right,
versus the main sign at the corner of
That's
front
right.
Kingston.
that's right, that's right.
Yeah, I don't think we're really, I think the directional sign is here just to show,
Sizing and
yeah,
basically.
color. and-
Yeah, it's a panel sign. So, you know, the panel signs, which are typically all the directional signs that we're showing here, those are fairly standard products that a signage vendor
Okay,
can put together. When you get to these other signs that include masonry work and foundation work and things like that, it might be something that a signage vendor can do. They can find the contractors that they need to put that together. I'm not sure.
okay.
I can say that I did not think that there was a way to use those two pillars, I'll be honest. This is a very nice way to reuse the two pillars. I'm talking about concept one. I really like it. I think we could reuse them and it could look really, really nice.
Well, of course, I like 3B.
Of course you do.
Maybe we should have brought just one option.
Well, if I may, I really dislike the stone pillars we have presently. It's just my personal opinion. To me, it dates the building. It's an old building, but
Plus, we wouldn't be able to move
Right.
the current sign so it will be more visible without that pole.
That pole.
Right there at the corner, so.
Mhm. That was the
Do
concern.
you
Remember
want
the
the
big-
pole to be
the big
right
pole?
in view and go with the current sign? Or just replacing the middle part? Or do something that we would be able to move it where it would be more visible?
We wanted to give you a range of options.
Yeah.
So,
and I would imagine we don't have any idea what any of these cost. We do, or we don't?
No, we do not.
We do not.
We do not. And I can think of two ways of finding out what they're likely to cost. One is to give it to the contractor that you have on the project right now. I suspect you're gonna pay a bit of a premium to have the contractor do that for you right now. The other is to, two other routes. One would be CCS could do cost estimating based on this information and at least give you an idea, a comparative idea. You know, this sign versus this sign versus, the other option is if you can find a signage vendor that you want to work with, the signage vendor may be able to look at the three options and give you an idea of what the different costs are associated with it. I don't know, Christine, do you think of anything else?
Yeah, well, we have been dealing with a signage company, 360. So we can forward them this version. They do have subcontractors
Yep,
that work with them. Then they apply the lettering and whatnot. So we can attempt to do that. And I think we've engaged them in some other discussion already. And, so I think that's a possibility.
Yeah.
They want the project, they'll look at it,
Yep.
they'll bid it, or,
Christina, would they look at all three?
yeah, I don't,
Before,
I
say-
think they would. I think they would, you know. We gave them a retainer fee of a small amount just to be on board. So in order for them to actually produce and install and get the job, I think they would be able to do something like that. If we could just get like the specs or like label, you know, if it's a veneer on a concrete, are these like panels?
we
or-
can give you that. but I'd also like to allow for them to suggest
Sure.
things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That might make it easier
Mhm.
for them, more cost-effective. So
Right.
I think to answer your question, yes, we could label, we were thinking of this as cast stone.
Exactly.
For
You said
example, and there's a concrete foundation
Smooth
underneath it. But
finish.
with respect to the panel sign, for
Yeah.
example,
Mhm.
they may have some better ideas about the best way to do that.
Right, so your
Yeah.
envision could be, this is metal or not stone.
Right,
These are the
exactly.
two stones.
Exactly,
So,
that's exactly
that's good.
right, yep.
Yeah, I think we could
Yep.
give them some direction, let them come back to us.
And who would make the determination about placement of the main sign? Because we talked about potentially moving it because of that big pole being there, and then also with the electrical. So like, who would make that determination to say like, okay, yes, this is where it will be on the lot?
Well, in the end, you.
Us, I mean,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean, but like to let us know, like, okay, you have
What is-
electrical here, you can't put it right here
Right,
because this is
that-
where
that
these.
figure.
Right, so there are, the utility pole that you're talking about, I assume is in a utility easement that's out there right now. So I would say if you stayed out of any utility easements, that you should be safe as far as the placement of it. Now, putting it in a place where it's unobstructed or less obstructed, that is gonna be, I would suggest you mock it up in the field, and
Okay.
you put something on a 4x8 sheet of plywood and you kind of move it around in different spots, and that's gonna be the best way to get
Okay.
a sense of it, I think.
We
Also
probably
permitting.
have the plywood in my basement. We have everything in my basement. So we could just paint something and move it around.
Also with permitting too, I would imagine they have certain regulations for viewing and turning the corner and whatnot, so.
I asked this question,
Yeah.
and I thought that the answer I got was that as a government agency, the library is not held
Oh,
to the,
right.
which shocks me, frankly, to hear that.
Right.
But that, we can confirm that.
Comments? Jenny?
I have comments. I'm very much interested in seeing a cost estimate. I would not want to waste anyone's time on concept 2. I'll try to spare my specifics if the remainder of the group can agree that concept 2 is not their preference. Any thoughts on concept 2? I'm trying to,
I would like the main sign to be larger, so,
Was the question of just eliminating it or
As
getting
an
the
option.
cost first?
I think that's what she's saying, like, don't even bother giving the cost
Well,
estimate.
that's what
up
I'm
front.
asking, but I
Yeah.
mean, what's the difference to get the cost estimate and include 2?
I'm trying to save
curious.
people time and potentially us money, but
Yeah, but it could be time. I mean, if it's a straight shot that you don't like it,
strong opinion.
I don't like it at all.
Strong opinion. I can share it with others later.
I like the signs that have larger text sizes for reading it, so, well, I like the logo, I just don't think it's large enough in the text.
Karen and Liz, what about 2? How do you feel? Just eliminate it?
I would not want to choose that.
Okay,
That
Yeah,
would
it's
not be.
kinda small.
okay. I'm in agreement, so we'll eliminate 2. Thank you.
So then maybe
Anything
just,
else, Jenny?
Yes, unfortunately. I will say, on a positive note, I agree with Liz and her comments about concept 1. It is not simply because Dawn implied it might be the most frugal option, given that it uses existing masonry. It's also for the sheer fact that and I'm not just saying it's for the symmetry, but I think the sizing of the elements is pleasing, and the added benefit that it ties into the masonry. Yes, the masonry is old, but we're not changing the building masonry, so it matches, and I don't feel like there's that strong of a need to change it. To Karen's point, the pole is maybe more of a concern because all of us collectively said visibility is the #1 element that we want to get out of an improved sign. So that is maybe the one thing, but I also don't know that we have clear information about planning and zoning limitations on us moving signs and changing signs overall. So I don't know if we get to a concept we like and then we find out we actually can't do it quite like that anyway. So I don't want to just throw out the existing layout because it's an already approved location and symmetry and everything else. I'm not really comfortable with the 3 because it takes, not for the asymmetry itself, but for the fact that the library logo and the library as an institution and the library font are all very friendly and welcoming. And the shaping to me is more like a weapon, a gavel, a hammer. It does not look friendly in shape to me and in size. And it's stone now, that it's also gonna add to that sort of sign of, I don't know the right word to use, but intimidation almost. That's not the look, I think, that really is emblematic of this institution. So that's why that for me is not a design concept that.
Are you speaking of
works.
3A?
3A and 3B both have the hammer look.
And what was the remark about it?
The shape, the sheer shape of it is a gavel, is a hammer, is a sledgehammer.
I guess I'm missing something there.
It looks a little, it looks inconsistent with the friendliness and the warmth of the logo. There's a heart shape in the logo. There's a whimsy in the font of the library's words in their sign, and then you have this melee weapon shape to the overall sign. So
Liz?
I don't care for 3A or 3B, no offense, I know you guys worked hard on this. I guess I love the library logo by itself so much that I don't think it needs an extension piece. And I guess that's why I go back to the concept 1 that has the logo with the lettering all on one rectangle, that feels very good to me. It represents the library to me. And to me, when I see the size of the people, it feels like it's the appropriate size.
Are the people to scale?
Yes.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
How about that?
Well, I think it's a legitimate question. Karen?
I'm not opposed to 3A or 3B. Concept 1, I like the design, I'm not crazy about the structure that it's on currently and the location that it's on. I mean, if we're gonna spend all this money to do a sign and put it on the current structure and people aren't gonna be able to see it, kind of like, what's the point?
So there's certainly a variation on concept 1 where you could say, we like the sign, the proportions, the way the sign is designed, but we take it off of the existing pillars that are there. You know, and you could put a new base underneath, kind of similar to concept 2. That would be one way to do it, right? Where you take the stone base that's on concept 2, you put it underneath the sign on concept 1, and then you locate it wherever you want, wherever it works out
Or
best.
could you
on the
even
sign.
do like the,
Yes,
on the
you could,
directional sign, you know, like
yes,
the,
just the posts, the
Yeah,
simple posts. that
like
go- Yes, you could
simple
do, you could
posts,
do that as
something
well.
like that.
You could do that as well,
yeah,
yep.
yeah, I'm pretty open.
Okay, Don, now that you just said what you said, so I like the double square in concept 1, right, the side by side like that. But I like the idea of there being the stone base that's in concept 2, and then that we could move it away from being blocked by that pole, right? I like that. And as far as directional signs go, I like the one where you have the watermark of the logo behind
In the background.
behind the text.
I think that's the best one of the drive-up signs.
Well, it's important enough that if we could get these to Lorna and Sarah, and in the meantime, we're going to check approximate costs. We don't need to decide tonight, correct, of course?
Just needed direction.
Pardon me?
We needed direction, just direction like number one, no way, or merge.
Well, we eliminated two,
Yeah.
except for Emily's comment about.
Well, but two's not, it's not the same two. It's what Don suggested,
Right.
which was the base from two, but longer rectangular and having concept one sign sitting on top of it.
Right, but that's probably direction that could just be given to the signage people,
Okay.
and they could probably give you an idea what the cost for
Yeah.
that could be.
I like that idea. Combining this part from one and putting it on top of two. Whatever, I don't know what size you would make the base, but.
I'm
at the
assuming
pro-
eight, well, I mean, over eight, because this is 4x8, so it would
Yes.
have to be
That's right.
over eight.
Or even with the,
With a panel, that'd be a less expensive option, because that could all be done by the signage contractor. They
Right.
wouldn't have to get a mason or
Right.
concrete contractor involved.
it would be like this Emily.
Oh, like that kind of sign?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's, for me personally, I feel like the main sign needs to be a little bit
More substantial.
more substantial.
Substantial.
Mhm.
Well, maybe.
That's me personally.
Maybe use one column, one of, the- I don't know, I don't want to overstep anybody, but maybe it's an offset with a light in it or something, or,
Well, you have lights out there right now.
With
Yeah.
lights in the ground.
So, you know, if you leave the sign where it is right now, as shown in current concept one, you could reuse those lights. If you move the sign, regardless of what option you do, you've got the power out there, but you're gonna have to relocate the lights.
But I have a feeling relative to the sign, that's probably a
That's not.
trivial cost, maybe?
Yes, yes. It's different than saying we want a lighted sign, for example.
Okay.
Yes, because we can just shift the way.
Yep.
Emily, what about the stone under? Can you elaborate on what your preferences are specific to that?
So what I like about that, so I don't like the current two pillars. I think they're really like big and just kind of not really pleasing to my eye personally. But in concept two, with the stone base, with it still having stones, I feel like it fits kind of that with the current exterior of the building where we have that stone. So I feel like it ties in still with the stone aspect, but it's just not these giant pillars on the side, that it would just be this underneath it. So it's, again, it's aesthetics, right? So for me, that is more visually pleasing than the two pillars. So really, it's just, you know, completely subjective and pleasing to my eye.
So if I hear you right, you're taking this one
Uh-huh,
and you're
Putting it
putting
on a
it on a
good base.
wider,
Uh-huh.
this one.
uh-huh.
Okay.
And only because Don suggested it, and then I visualized it, and I said, oh, I like that.
No, you can see the rabbit's hole you can go down here as you start to think about
Exactly.
different combinations of everything, so,
Well, and you said that, you could take pieces from the different
Right.
concepts and.
right. That's usually how these things go.
So if you don't like the pillars, what would change in your opinion if the base was not completely filled in? If there was, say, some spacing?
You're saying underneath
Yes.
the sign?
Yes, just like in concept one, even though there's pillars on the sides.
Oh,
the
you're saying
entire
because
bottom-
it's open here?
Yeah, so I'm saying, what if it wasn't completely filled in underneath?
So, I mean, I don't know what it would be mounted on, like how that would work, because I don't know anything about signage and how that would need to go. But the other piece to that, me preferring this also, is moving it.
We can move
Because
it.
then it would be away from that pole.
Yeah, no, I think we all agree,
So I don't know because of the fact that I don't know
the
how
advantage of a
they
better
would.
location, we
Right.
agree on.
So,
better
yeah, and I don't know how the sign company would do that, if there's another kind of base that would have a stone kind of look to it that could hold this sign. I don't know, I like the fact that, I like this platform look in these stones, but I mean, if there is something that they could do that, I don't know.
Are we saying that the sign material is not, in 1 and 2 were not stone, right? That was.
No.
In none of them is
Oh,
the
okay.
sign
Sorry. Well,
material
the-
itself
The
stone.
logo in 3A
The
was
logo
stone.
is, yes,
Okay,
but
right.
the sign panel itself is not.
Right, so
And I
it
think-
shouldn't be that hard to mount without a complete stone or concrete base underneath it.
The one thing I'm not sure I understand what you're suggesting exactly, Jenny, but if I understand it to be kind of 2 separate stone pieces that the sign sits on top of,
Yeah, I mean, almost, if you think like a
You put-
rook in chess.
yeah, you put a hole in the middle. It may seem counterintuitive, that may actually be more expensive than what's shown here, because now you have to form 2 pillars that are 4-sided as opposed to just filling in the whole thing, but.
I mean, I guess I'm gonna reveal what I strongly dislike about 2, because the reason I don't like the platform, and it's just specific to how 2 looks on paper right here today, is it's 100% a tombstone. And I really don't feel like I wanna see, the death of the Lisle Library District in the shape, so if
You're all
that.
doom and gloom today.
I'm just
Your
saying,
weapons,
this
your
is-
tombstones.
This
I
is
think
just
you watch
what I mean, now if someone can find a Google image out there of a sign that has a similar shape and a similar platform to it that doesn't then, have that, sort of similarity. I don't
Well,
see signs like this
If
out
it
and about.
is over 8 feet wide, then I don't think
Right,
there's
the
tombstone.
wider one, well,
Exactly.
unfortunately, to get more specific, when you get to family plots, yes, it does end up looking
I
that
like the
way.
longer stone, the longer stone on
Sign.
the bottom versus 2, maybe, to make it not look like a tombstone, to your remark.
Sorry, just trying to avoid doom and gloom, but there it was. Yeah, I mean, I think, I understand that at this stage, it can't be a true picture, but if in the next iteration, there can be a similar example from real life pointed to, I think that, for me, would help me to get beyond a 2-dimensional look and see, okay, yeah, that does look fine in a landscape like ours. That doesn't remind me of something dissimilar to a library sign.
We are agreeing on the sign on concept 1, correct?
Yes.
And,
On a larger base on 2.
well, we could go with base on 2 as is, or extend it wider.
So what we were saying, extend it wider because of fitting the
No, I
sign in concept 1.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, that's the consensus. I think everybody good with that?
I like it.
Okay.
But showing the price difference of the existing pillars, I think I would like to see, so that we know really what we're talking about and difference in aesthetics.
So you'd like pricing for concept 1 as is, and then the,
Personally, I think it would be nice to know, like, concept 3, just have an idea about that. Just to have an idea about costs and with that as well.
Yeah, it's nice to have them just give the 2 options.
I really like the logo.
And for all we know, when we get to Lorna and Sarah's opinions, they have been curious about pursuing 3.
Do we need to give you, like, an idea or direction, as you're saying, on the smaller directional sign as well?
that would be good. I know I heard that the
The
watermark
watermark.
was nice, so
Yeah.
this one, if everybody was in agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if we have to wait for the other 2 members to take a look.
Tatiana, do you think you can summarize what we were thinking on these for Sarah and Lorna? Or just let them look at them and?
No, I can
Okay.
do that.
All right, are we good? May we move on? All righty. 5A4, Phase 2 move plan.
Yes, so the Phase 2 will be taking place at the end of September with closure dates of 10/3 to 10/12. Those are actually, the finished state of the Phase 1 will be sort of an on-off type of state. It won't be totally finished. Some items are still, have long lead times, like the light fixtures. So there won't be a full completed finished state for Phase 1. And the south entry of the main entry on the south side will not be available, so that will be shut off and everything will move to the north side entry.
Tatiana, how many days were we closed in Phase 1? I mean, in the beginning? I don't think it was quite as long as this closure.
4 days? What was it?
It was 2 or 3, I
I
think.
think it
Are
was
you
2 or
talking-
3.
For what, which
When we
one?
first closed.
When we first
to
closed.
move, but this is because we're moving from one side to the other side, and we're pulling things from storage, and we've got new furniture coming in.
Uh-huh.
And we need time to,
No.
I was thinking about that just because of like what's in the meeting rooms right now and all of that has to get out because that's in Phase 2 and then the other part of current adult services is gonna be in Phase 2 and upstairs is Phase 2 and all that stuff has to get moved into Phase 1.
and we're going into new facilities where we have to tech it up with, all the new computers and,
Yeah.
not new computers, but set up the computers to the new areas.
Well, and all the shelving of all the materials.
Any questions on Phase 2, the move? Okay, great.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And nice meeting you.
Same here.
We'll be with you for 2 weeks, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And then also thereafter, but in the background.
Yes.
And
Thanks
as
for
needed.
coming down.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Agenda item 6, committee reports. 6A is finance, city report.
Not that I'm aware. None.
Thank you. 6B, personnel and
Hold on,
policy.
I'm looking, we have a meeting scheduled. The meeting is scheduled for Monday, August 29th at 10 a.m.
Thank you. 6C, physical plant.
We did a tour of the, 2 lots, as well as the outside along Kingston, discussed the shrub removal, and the couple of trees that we still have to have, that weren't included in the, bid, am I correct, Tatiana, the bid for the shrub removal?
Yeah, we had a quote, it wasn't a bid, but it was a quote
Quote.
for removing some damaged brush as well as the invasive buckthorn. And so that was just for the removal of that material. It didn't include tree
The
removal.
trees, right. So that's kind of about it. It was good. It was good to see the other
It
2
was.
lots, yeah.
Very good, and it looks great,
Yeah,
and it'll look even better.
yes.
Thank you, Karen. Advocacy and outreach.
No meeting at this time.
Thank you. 6E is the ad hoc committee to review minutes. Secretary Larson and I reviewed the fiscal year 21-22 official board packets in accordance with the library's IPLAR documentation. The committee has done its work and I officially retire the ad hoc committee this evening. Thank you. Agenda item 7 is staff reports. Director Weinstein.
Okay, so I'll start with the National Night Out in Lisle. On August 2nd, the library participated in the National Night Out. Rochelle from Adult Services, Mallory from Youth Services, and Stephanie from Circulation Services and I stationed a table in the Lisle High School parking lot. And this event was put on by the Lisle Police Department, and the fire department was there, and other governmental agencies, staff tables. I saw some trustees there. I also met the deputy chief of police, the newly sworn chief of police Lisle personally thanked our table for coming. He also sent a very nice letter to the library. Our staff met over 200 residents there. We issued 7 new cards and renewed 8 cards on site. There's a nice little photo collage in the packet. And I met the deputy chief. He's coming to us from Westmont. I also invited the deputy chief to come visit the library because he's not really familiar with Lisle, so we'll set up an appointment for that. And then speaking of the police department, I also met with Chief Lisle in May, went through the proper channels to make that appointment, and I wanted to meet with him to introduce him to the library, to talk about things of interest to the library like active shooter training and security patrols around the library, and making sure that's kept up and keep our relationship good with the police department. We also agreed on partnering, collaborating with some programs with the police department in the near future. So more to come there. And then under renovation activities, the department directors and I met with Mark Rogers recently to discuss preliminary planning for phase 2. And I know Christina mentioned a little bit about that. We talked about all our shelving units, the counts for those, the counts for the collection, the storage of materials. We'll probably hold another public auction for some things that we won't be using again. Not as big as the first one, but a small amount of stuff. We talked about packing and unpacking, working with pallet movers, that whole, it's just a whole other, event to happen again. And then the closure for the move. Talked a little bit about that, more meetings to come on that topic. And then under the south side entrance framing, I hope most of you have come by the library and saw the south side steel posts go up for the foyer that's being built there. That foyer is going to be our south vestibule. I think there's going to be a lot of glass panels. It's going to be enclosed. It's going to look really nice, I hope. I walked that area with Pat, our superintendent, to discuss the fencing area. So if you can envision the south side fencing area, that area is the fencing is going to be pushed out a little bit more once they start working on the curbing around the new entrance as well as the sidewalks. So for a short period of time, I'm thinking a week to a week and a half, the fencing will be pushed out. So just in the area where the fencing and the parking lot spaces are, that will be a throughway for cars. So we're not going to change the direction of traffic or anything like that, but we are going to have Camosi horses up to show that it's a throughway. And again, hopefully it's about a week of time to do that. It won't affect the direction, like I said. It also won't affect the book drop. So everything should be good there. Karen talked about the physical plant committee, so that's all good. And then I mentioned in the report about the You Just Saved checkout receipts. It's such a cute highlight, I think. It talks about your card life savings, your annual savings, and the current savings of what you checked out. And then what's not in my report, I just wanted to update the board on that the Illinois Library Association Conference is coming up in October. It's October 18th through 20th in Rosemont. So if you're interested, you can go on the Illinois Library Association's website, take a look at the schedule. There's generally a trustee day, and that's the last day, but in looking at the schedule, there's stuff that's trustee related almost on every day. So if there's something you want to do, we do budget for conferences for trustees, so if you're interested, take a look at the schedule online, and if you are, let me know what day you might be interested in, and we can go forward with purchasing tickets for you. So take a look at that. And then lastly, at the last village meeting, I don't know if the boards took a look at the Village of Lisle's meeting, a trustee brought up a topic about a grant opportunity for electric charging stations. And so these would be public electric charging stations for cars. And that trustee wanted the village to look into investigating these type of grants. So my question for our board is, would the board be open to the library having a charging station in our lot in someday in the future? And if so, as long as it was via a grant and didn't incur any costs for us, would you be open to that? And if you are, I'd like to contact that trustee just to get on the radar. So if the village is going out for these grants, that to keep the library in mind, because when you charge a car, it's about, it could take anywhere from an hour to all day. And, you know, if you're just charging it for an hour, I mean, what better place than to hang out at the library for an hour while you're charging your car? And again, if it doesn't incur any cost for us, and if it's just the use of one parking spot, and who knows where that would be, I'd like to connect and just make sure that they keep the library on their radar.
Great
That
idea.
Sounds
sound
good.
Okay. That's my report.
Thank you. Assistant Director McCullen?
Just wanted to update you that in the admin office, we're busy getting the audit documents ready. Administrative Office Coordinator Jackie Colcran is every day going through a checklist and talking to the, emailing with the auditor to make sure that we have everything lined up that we need to have ready. And that's going to be on September 12th. And just as an update to the Physical Plant Committee, tomorrow Bear Landscape's going to be back and they're going to look at the 2 trees that we're going to show them that look to be dead, and the committee recommended that we remove those on the west side. And, you know, they've already made their proposal to clean up the shrubs, the buckthorn, the invasive stuff that's around, the nice trees that and shrubs that we want to keep. So it's just cleaning it up to make it look really nice, and look at those. He's going to look at the 2 dead trees tomorrow then.
And he'll
That's
give
it.
us a quote.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good luck with that buckthorn. In Green Trails, we've been trying to get rid of it. It comes back, it comes back.
Yeah.
Thank you, Beth. Excuse me. Agenda item 8, new business. Excuse me. 8A is to approve the tentative budget and appropriation ordinance for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022, and ending June 30th, 2023. May I have a motion to adopt and a second?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I move to approve ordinance 22-04, a tentative budget and appropriation of such sums of money as may be deemed necessary to defray all necessary expenses and liabilities of the Lisle Library District for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022 and ending June 30th, 2023.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion?
Yes. Okay, so, just for everybody's knowledge, and I think you all know, but the budget appropriation ordinance, or more commonly known as the B&A, is an ordinance that all Illinois taxing districts must adopt to spend the funding the library receives. And so we present the tentative B&A this month and the final draft for approval in September. The budget column within the ordinance shows the estimated working budget expenditures, and the appropriation column designates the library's authorization to expend funds for any necessary obligations that extend beyond the budget. So some institutions simply double their budget, or they provide a flat increase of like 20% or 30%, and the library just regularly and thoughtfully, I might add, examines each account category to determine a suitable appropriation amount. So again, the appropriation column is not necessarily our intention to spend, it's more of an allowance should the library require to spend beyond the budget. One example of an added expense might be, and I use this example every year, like a snow event. If we had an extreme snow event where we would have to spend beyond what we estimated in the budget, or as this year is showing some increasing in pricing due to supply chain matters. Before we go through the budget, the B&A, one specific example where we will indeed expend more funds than previously budgeted is in the project expense category, and related to that, the transfer of special reserve, monies into special reserve, and we'll get to that when we walk through the B&A. I have a cheat sheet of notes I will share with you. I just thought it would be easier if I share with you my cheat sheet, so we can walk through it quickly, and then you have it. I can't make it warmer in here, I'm sorry.
Just talk about the sign some more that he didn't meet up.
Oh
No.
my goodness.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry. Okay, so we can walk through this pretty quickly. Under employee costs, which is the first category, this recognizes retirements in this fiscal year, and then the health and unemployment category, that is on a calendar year, so we have to do an extra estimate there because as of January, we'll receive more information. But our risk agency provides us this recommendation, and it's a small flexible amount in the appropriation. Under building costs, you can see all of our utilities there. We always allow an allowance for potential usage increases in the orange. And then under maintenance contracts, those are contracts we have, but we allow for a little bit more in case there's some increase regarding products. If there's like a run on certain cleaning products or something like that, if there's an increase in price, we allow for a little bit more in the appropriation. Under non-contract repairs in blue there, we are looking to repair some tiles in the east end restrooms, and that was what we were trying to get with the construction grant. Of course, we did not receive that grant, so we are putting in some extra cushion there for potential maybe increases in price because of the supply chain thing. And as well as our landscaping is in this category as well, so if we wanted to do more landscaping, we added some more there. Under rubbish removal, we allowed for some gasoline surcharges. Perhaps there's going to be more there, we don't know. Under operating costs, again, minimal allowances for possible increase in prices in the yellow. Under insurance, this is similar to the health insurance. It's a calendar year estimate here. Our risk agency made the recommendations. And then just under notary, we're looking at possibly adding another staff for notary because we've had an increase in requests for that. It's a minimal amount, but training and supplies cost money. And then if you flip to contractual, under legal services, we added a little bit more in case, just in case. Collection agency, there's no change. Under outsourced accounting, HR sourced and outsourced IT services, we are looking at possibly onboarding a new IT vendor. So this would allow for transition as well as double pay for that time and setup for staff. Also an allowance for cost increases regarding an updated phone system and website update. Under investment agency and accounting software, again, minimal allowances for potential additional services if we should need it. We don't know always. Under audit, we received notice that we needed an OPEB audit. And so, again, by our auditor. And so we are at, Beth, remind me of how much that audit is. An extra
2,600 or something?
Something like that. So this year we need that, so we added that to our audit line. Under payroll, it's a calendar year estimate again, and then a minimal allowance if we added extra services via our payroll. We don't know, we don't anticipate it, but we did allow for that. Under personnel, just increases for potential price increases there. Under equipment, minimal allowance for potential additional services. Under technology, facility, minor equipment, and facility and maintenance and repairs. This would be any unknowns after the renovation should we need something. And then just the library materials, again, we always add a little bit there for potential increase in pricing. Under programs, same concept for increases in pricing. Under gifts, this is up for discussion. Last year when we did the budget, we put in $16,000, and that was for the donations for Lisle. Well, we paid for it in the previous fiscal, so that was in the budget. But this B&A, there's an opportunity. Now you have to remember, this is expenditures in this fiscal year. So do we expect to expend any gifts in this fiscal year. We always try to put something in there in case we receive something, like if someone donated, $10,000. We have to have it in that line so that we could spend that $10,000. So I put in 20,000, that was the same thing we put in last year, but it's up for board discussion if you want to increase it or not. Just so you know, this is our legal authority to expend it. So if someone gave us $50,000, we could only expend 20 of it.
In the fiscal year.
In this fiscal year, exactly. So it's this
Not
fiscal year.
never.
So right now, we're not, it's really what you think we will spend in this fiscal year. Under per capita grant, we did receive notice of the award, so we put in a rounded number, 45,000. For debt certificate, this is our planned repayment schedule, including interest and principal for this fiscal year. Under contingency, we just added some flexibility there. The transfer for special reserve, we placed an additional $1,070,000. We appropriated that to support the completion of the capital improvement project. Under IMRF, again, a calendar year estimate, our rate is going to change as of January 1st. And again, that's all the number is dependent on retirements and disability and interest earnings of IMRF. FICA is the Social Security percentage plus an allowance for potential employee changes during the fiscal year. And then, again, up for discussion under Special Reserve Fund, we added $20,000 under consulting and some flexibility under facility and campus. Now, this is for potential preliminary project planning. Should the board look at another project in this fiscal year, the board may want to employ a consultant regarding that type of project. And so we need somewhere in our B&A to show that we would expend funds with that reasoning. So we could change that if you thought another number belonged there. And then under project expense, we moved that from 5.2 to 5.9 due to supply chain and delayed contractor billing for unexpended capital projects. So we expect to expend about 5.85, I believe, so we rounded that to 5.9 in this column. So, any questions about any of the lines? I wanted to go through it quickly first, and if there were any questions, I could hopefully answer. And did you want to change any of those kind of question mark things in regards to gifts or consulting or facility and campus if we have projects? And again, remember, it's just for this fiscal year.
I think gifts are fine because we can always spend, if somebody gives us $1 million, we can always spend it in increments over the next years.
True.
In terms of consulting, I understand having a certain amount in there in case there are other projects that we want to plan for, even if they're years down the road. I have no idea if $20,000 is a good number or not. I mean, is that, in your professional opinion, is that a good number?
There's been professional services where we paid $5,000, $10,000. That's why I put that in there as 20. We do have a contingency line if that was the way to go. The other option is, this is our legal document, but it's not in stone. So if there was something where we needed to go above and beyond with some great expense, you could come back to the board with an adjustment of the B&A. There's process for that if you really needed to do that. I thought 20 made sense. I mean, we talked about it in admin, and we looked at other times we spent money on consultants, whether, so.
Okay.
When you speak of, on the third page, the transfer of special reserve, is that related to the question that I asked you about on page 42 of this document, the draft ordinance 2204?
Yes.
Remember I asked you about transfer of the debt certificate? We moved over the million,
We did.
but we didn't budget to transfer it over.
So
Is that related
It is.
Okay.
So I can just go over that.
Because
So,
that's what I did not understand.
well, it's kind of a good story because it kind of speaks to why we have a B&A versus a working budget. So it's always good that the appropriation has the flexibility, because the year prior, we only allowed for a 2.8 million transfer. And I think that was in our working budget, 2.8 million to transfer into special reserve. And then in the B&A, we increased it to 3 million. So we had a 2.8 and a 3 in the A column. And so we could only move that amount. And then when we were in May and June, we didn't expend as many funds as we thought we were going to in the renovation. So last year, like I said, it allowed for a 2.8, I'm looking at my notes. In the working budget, the 30,000 was documented as the annual replenishment of the special reserve. So we documented that we wanted to continue to replenish the special reserve. But during the B&A process, we calculated that we needed to move another million over to the special reserve. So we had clean lines between our working budget and our special reserve, and like connecting it to our special reserve ordinance. So we're spending from the special reserve for the project. So is that answering your question a little bit? It's we could have spent out of our corporate fund for this project, because it's just how you document where the money is coming from.
It's the same money.
It's the same money.
Same money.
We just didn't, at the time of the budget, we only documented what we were going to transfer to replenish. And because it's during that time period where we were still calculating how much we spent on the renovation and how much we need to spend on the renovation. Anyway, I did send all this to our attorney because I'm like, I want this documented correctly. And I thought it would take longer, but our attorney did say that he looked at our footnotes, he agreed with the footnotes, we sent it to Sickage too, we just got back from them today, they agree with everything. So everything that's documented in the B&A is, you know, stamp of approval from our attorney and from Sickage. So yes, that's why it's great to have an appropriation ordinance, because when you're doing the working budget and you're kind of in the same time, you're in a time crunch between spending for a renovation, if you happen to be in that kind of situation, and not knowing exactly where you're at in terms of your expenditures, allowing for it in the B&A is totally kosher, I should say. So yes, it's properly documented, and we're just moving $1 million from corporate into special, so it's a clean way to expend funds per our ordinance.
Thank you.
Sorry, there was a lot of.
Is there anything going up a lot more than, I know we're in an inflationary time. I guess you could say that, I don't know if it's official inflation or blah, 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 but things are going up in price. Is there anything that's going up a lot more than you anticipated?
I think, we were just talking about this, I mean, I think everything is showing somewhat of a percentage of an increase. Everything from cleaning materials to paper products and things like that. There's just, I couldn't say exactly how much on everything, but we're seeing.
So as a
increases.
library, we're not getting hit in one area that's gonna hit libraries like extremely hard, that nobody else is gonna suffer?
I don't think so.
Okay.
On the outsource accounting to HR,
Yes.
page 2, of the potential onboarding of a new outsourced IT vendor.
Yes.
That's not in addition to the current, we're just changing.
Yes.
Okay, and is there a specific reason?
The company we have now, we've had some communication concerns with in terms of acting fast enough. We just learned that they've been bought out as well, so that's a concern. And just service has been not to our standards 100%. So we've been for the past year, actually, been looking at others and, around local. And so we think we've found somebody we like, and we're gonna keep exploring that. We haven't gotten quotes or anything yet like that, solid, but we're looking at that.
And this wouldn't, I am not an IT person, but this wouldn't change any of the software we use or the way that we have to process things. I mean, when I think of going to a different IT vendor in my working days, that could mean a whole different program.
No, it's not like we would replace everything with a totally different product or anything like
Okay.
that, if that's what you're asking. Yeah, we would hire somebody who would work with what we have
Okay.
and who had knowledge and background of everything that we're currently using. The reason there's an increase here is that anytime you're moving from one company to another, there's a transition period where you're using both. So you're paying two people to move from one to another, so.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, Tatiana? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have roll call.
Emily Swistak,
Aye.
Karen Larson,
Aye.
Jenny Norton,
Aye.
Liz Sullivan,
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye. Excuse me, thank you. Item 8B is to accept the Illinois Public Library Annual Report, or IPLAR. May I have a motion and a second, and the director will provide a summary.
I move to accept the Illinois Public Library Annual Report as statutorily required and to submit the IPLAR to the State Library as a condition of system membership.
Second.
Discussion?
It is what, it's exactly what Trustee Sullivan said. It's our annual statistical report. I am not going to go through it, but if there are any questions, happy to answer them.
I have a question, just
Sure.
going through the current library board. I have no idea what this phone number is that it says is my phone number.
Okay. So the phone number that's on the public, there's nothing that's on the public site that has your phone number, but if that's
I don't even know,
correct, we will address it.
don't even know what that number is.
Okay.
I was like,
That's
You
a
weren't
good
the
thing.
only one.
I don't know what that number is. Not mine.
And the statistics in this report do not match like our monthly statistics. They ask questions in a very different manner. There's different time frames, so it's useless to really compare it to what we provide you, so.
I know the first time I saw this, there were some inaccuracies
Yeah.
that, but you've explained it, so. Roll call, Chris?
Liz Sullivan,
Aye.
Jenny Norton,
Aye.
Karen Larson,
Aye.
Emily Swistak,
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye. Thank you. Item 8C acknowledges payment of earned and unused vacation time as required by Illinois Wage Payment and Collection Act 820, ILCS 115/5, for a payment that shall not exceed $8,437.44 to be paid to Gail Graziani. Items 8D and E are the semi-annual review of executive session minutes and review of executive session recordings more than 18 months old. May I have a motion to go into executive session under agenda item number 2 in a second?
I move to go into executive session under 5 ILCS 120/2 C21, the discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed under this act, whether for purposes of approval by the body of the minutes or semi-annual review of the minutes as mandated by section 2.06.
I'll second.
So, roll call? Oh, roll call, I'm sorry.
Liz Sullivan,
Aye.
Karen Larson,
Aye.
Jenny Norton,
Aye.
Emily Swistak,
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye. Okay.
We got some
Stuff to do here?
transitioning from this to that.
Okay. I'll take the-
At 8:36.
session at 8:43 PM. May I have a motion and second for agenda items 8D and E?
I move to release the February 16th, 2022 minutes of the LLD Board of Trustees.
I will second.
Discussion, roll call.
Emily Swistak,
Aye.
Karen Larson,
Aye.
Jenny Norton,
Aye.
Liz Sullivan,
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye. Agenda item 10,
Okay, can I, wait, I gotta do 8E. Sorry.
8E.
I move to destroy the February 17th, 2021 recording of the Lisle Library District Board of Trustees.
Second.
Emily Swistak,
Aye.
Jenny Norton,
Aye.
Karen Larson,
Aye.
Liz Sullivan,
Aye.
Marjorie Bartelli.
Aye. Thank you. Number 10, right?
Yeah.
Okay, trustee comments. I'm going to start alphabetically, so. I have none, thank you. Karen,
I don't have anything at this time either.
Jenny,
Thank you, no comment.
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Oh, come on, I'm gonna be the lone person to talk. I'm sorry, I know everyone wants to go home, I just wanna say one thing. Actually, two things. I really enjoyed the physical plant committee meeting we had last week and touring the properties. It was really neat to see the adjacent properties that the library owns. So that was really nice, and it got me wondering when the trustees are gonna be able to go back into the building one or two at a time with our hard hats on to see progress inside the building. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there, that I'm excited about another opportunity to get back into the building. And then the other thing I wanted to say was Summer Read was a lot of fun this year, and I really liked the glasses that we got this year. The fact that there's the logo on the bottom of it when you're drinking, and then on the outside is really nice. My youngest was really excited about all the beads he got, so that was really cool too. And then just, continuing programming is really nice. And that, there's opportunities to do programs outside, is really nice as well. So that's it.
all right, thank you. Last item on the agenda is to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Meeting is adjourned at 8:46 PM.